So when Livia, my daughter, was 5, the same one who read for us earlier today, I was in a class on spirituality, and the class asked us to interview several people and get an understanding of where their spirituality was. We had 5 questions to ask, and we had to ask everyone the same question. All of the class was doing this, and I knew that most people were going to think of the obvious people to ask. Older people, church members, deacons, right? And I decided that one of the people I was going to ask was my own 5-year-old. I wanted to get a sense of, where and what she thought of these questions. The first question was, where do you meet God? Now, by the time I got to her, I had already done all my other interviews, and all of them had really good statements. I meet God in prayer. I meet God in church. I find the holy everywhere. Great answers. Answers you expect from people who are holy, right? And I get to her, and I say to her, well, where do you meet God? And I start to write, and her response to me was, school. And I have to admit, I was frustrated. I thought, all these years of teaching her about God, and she meets God at school, did she not understand the question? So, in a tangent away from the interview, and also in a little bit of a frustrating voice, I said to her, Livia, what about church? And she said something very profound back. She said, well, I meet God at school because that's when I don't have you or Daddy, and that's when I get the most scared. And so I just talk to God and pray to God. And I thought, wow, that is a profound statement. And she is now teaching me something, because she is reminding me that when we are scared, when we feel alone, when the people that we love are not the people that are closest to us, we can pray to God and invite God in. I feel like her answer ended up to be the most holy of all the answers that I got. And that, my friends, is what Jesus is trying to teach his disciples in this passage today. He says to them in our John reading that he is like the gate and the shepherd, and that people and the sheep will know by him, and they won't follow strangers. And that we as disciples, we as followers of Jesus should know his voice, should know when God is calling and asking of us, and we should not follow or go astray. And yet, it is so easy to go astray. It is so easy to hear God's voice saying to us one thing and not like it enough to do it. It is so easy to just stay where we are or do what we are doing instead of following Jesus. Because following Jesus is tough. Jesus' disciples did not have easy lives, and we as disciples of Christ do not have easy lives. We are called to make tough choices and to follow God. Our churches are called to take risks, to do things differently or do things new, not because we want to stay the same, but because we know a life with Jesus is not easy. And yet, in this passage, Jesus kind of makes it really simple, doesn't he? He's like, I am the shepherd, right? I am the gate. If you follow me, if you listen to my voice, if you know who I am, then I'll let you in. truly and profoundly that we know who God is? Do we come to church and meet God in the pews on Sunday, but forget what Jesus is asking us to do by Monday morning? Or when we are at Monday morning and things are different, do we invite God in? This crisis is affecting everybody very differently, but we will all come out of this crisis different. Be it an essential worker who is working hard and long and putting themselves at risk day in and day out, they will come out of this different than they were before. Be it somebody who's sitting at home and lost their job, they will come out of this different than before. Be it that you're working from home and juggling, trying to teach your children math, you will come out different. Be it if you are a student and you're still trying to figure out life or still trying to figure out school, we're all coming out of this different. But how we respond in this pandemic and in this time is important. When we are scared or when we are fearful or when we don't know what is going to come next, are we inviting God in to be a part of this? Are we listening to where God is working in this world or in our lives? Or are we hunkering down in fear and letting others and other voices determine how we come out of this? There are so many people offering so much advice, right? There are people all over social media offering advice out of how to be and how to come out of this a better person. There are news articles about when and how we will come out of this. And there is so much going on about when this is all over. And there's so much uncertainty and so much fear. Fear that when we do come out of this, it will just restart and there'll be another wave, or fear that when we do come out of this, we still can't touch each other or hug each other, and there's just so much going on. But as Christians, we are called to stand in awe of what God can do for us. We are called to invite God into the mess of life, not to make it better, not to make it perfect, not to make it less messy, but so that we can stand more firm in that mess. We are called right now to do the most profound thing we can do. Invite God in to remind us that we are not alone. To invite the holy into this crisis, into our lives, and ask what is next. For those who are working more hours than before, or even the same hours, but under a lot of stress, it is important to invite God into this. In these fearful and stressful moments, it is important to ask God to be with you, to give you strength, to see the end. But most importantly, to know and to feel how important your work is. And I'm not talking about just the people who are standing on the front lines. I'm talking about those who are feeding us, or working at grocery stores, or pumping my gas. We need, no matter where we are, to uplift God in this moment. Invite God in and realize our purpose. But if we're home more and we're able to build better relationships with our families, or see each other more, or have dinner more often, I do encourage you to invite God into that. To see where God can transform you or work within you and through you. These are important times. When we are in crisis, we can break down, we can feel overwhelmed, we can even start to do things we wouldn't normally do, or feel things we wouldn't normally feel. We can start allowing vices like alcohol or cigarettes or nicotine in other forms, or drugs, fill this void. Or we can turn to God and say, please, enter into these scary moments and into this crisis and show me what to do. Listen for how God is working in and through your life. I can't tell you the times that when I truly opened up my eyes or opened up my ears to God working, I was profoundly changed by what I saw or came to know about God in those moments. Even in some of my moments of need, when I looked around, I saw, when I finally invited God in, what God was doing. Our Holy Sustainer is working in this world. Our Holy Sustainer is working within us and through us. And our Holy Sustainer is calling us this day to continue to be disciples, apostles, churchgoers in this world. Today, our God is calling us to do our part, to invite God in and to encourage others to do the same. Our God today is calling us to recognize God's voice in this world. And more importantly, helping others recognize God's voice in this world, in the here and in the now. And so I encourage you this week to do just that. To think about where God is. How have you been inviting God into your home? Our welcoming prayer today reminded us that although we do not meet in this church, we are inviting church into our homes today. That although we are not seeing our church family, we are inviting community in. How do we do that, my friends? How do we listen to what God is calling us to do? How do we speak and show God's love to this world? I would love to hear about your creative ways in which you are doing that. I know that we are calling each other. I know that there have been notes dropped to each other, which is wonderful. I know that many of you have been using Zoom or FaceTime with your family members. Last week, we were invited to a bingo game on Zoom with another family, and that was a blast and very exciting to be able to see some other people. Whatever it is that is working for you. And if you aren't, this is a call to do that. This is a call to invite God into your home, to listen to how God is working in your everyday life, to be reminded that when we are not in church, when we are not surrounded by the familiar, that is one of the most important moments in our life, to invite the familiar God in. And so I invite you to do just that this week. Amen.